So nostalgia can hit me at any time. A song, a smell, or a message from an old friend. But what is nostalgia? It's a strange feeling of happiness and loss. Looking at old videotapes of when you were a kid or a teenager, it's striking how quickly life can change. And you're kind of left wondering, how have you ended up where you are now? And this got me thinking, is nostalgia a good or a bad thing? Is it a reason for us to live in the past, or can it motivate us for the future? It's strange that we always seem to romanticize the past, and I've always been left wondering why we do this. And I guess it's partly down to our mental state. We're kind of wired to not live in the moment. We can get so caught up in what's coming next. Am I doing the right thing? And this can lead us to feel quite lonely and sad and kind of disillusioned to where our lives are right at this very moment. But this is why I believe documenting ourselves can help us gain more perspective on our lives. When we see old clips of ourselves, we don't feel the same stress or anxiety we were feeling at that moment, because I think we forget that we go through this every day in some way or another. And that's why I think nostalgia can be so good for our mental health. It can remind us that whatever we feel right now isn't permanent, and it can help us to move on. And nostalgia can kind of unlock these hidden memories that we have locked in our minds. An old song can help us to relive how we felt 10 years ago. And when I'm going through this period, I kind of start to remember things that happened in the past. But then what starts to really bug me is that we're incapable of remembering every part of our lives. Our brains can't hold every single memory, and that drives me insane. So the thought that really got me going with this is thinking about a random month and year. So for example, let's say August 2013. What were you feeling in that month? What was making you happy? What was stressing you out? What was making you sad? Can't remember. And these little thoughts, the fact that I don't know what I was doing, it kind of drives me mad, and I probably obsess over my memory recall a bit too much. And that's where I partly decided that I want to find a way of capturing more of the day-to-day scenarios that we live. And for me, this hit really hard when about a year ago, I found this old hard drive which had all of my band video diaries on it, essentially, mostly from 2016. And that's when I realised that most of my 2016 was actually documented. I was on tour pretty much most of that year, and I felt I needed to film and document what was going on, because in my mind I was almost living the dream. I'd worked very hard to become in a band that was full-time, and this was the start of that journey for me. And I needed to remember what was happening, because I knew my future self would want to relive some of these moments. And that was what was so important to me. And I'm so glad that I did, because now I'm able to look back on all these old memories and really enjoy and feel accomplished of the things that I achieved. Although it didn't really work out for me in the way that I hoped, I made some incredible memories and did things that I'm really proud of. That's why finding this hard drive drove me to want to document more of my life, especially these day-to-day scenarios, so I can fill in the gaps of my memory recall that I've not been able to do before. And I want to show you how I have done this, because I'm guessing if you're watching this, you want to do the same. First of all, what you've got to get your head around, and it took me a while to get my head around it, is quality doesn't matter. You need to remember that this is just for you. This isn't for anybody else. And when you realise that, you start to loosen up a little bit. You're a lot more natural. You're not as stiff as you might be when you're in front of the camera. So when I'm filming this right now, it's going out to somebody else. It's going to my YouTube channel. So I feel a pressure to make sure it comes out at a certain level. So I'm thinking about my audio. I'm thinking about, is my lighting okay? Is this right? Is my wideband scape? Am I exposed right? And if you're trying to think about that all the time when you're trying to get just a nice little shot for a memory, you're not gonna live it properly. And that's where you can get too caught up in it. And a great example how quality doesn't really matter was that the first event that I really filmed post my band days was a trip that I took with my girlfriend. We went to California in May 2018, and I went out and thought, right, I'm gonna buy a lens for this trip because I finally felt inspired, and I bought this Canon 50mm f1.8. It's kind of the standard lens. Everyone kind of gets this from their kit lens generally because it's really easy to achieve quite a nice look. The f1.8 really helps. But even with that lens, the quality isn't great, but it doesn't matter because the footage means something to me, and this is what's really, really important to you. Because what's great about looking back on this is that we hadn't actually known each other for 3 months, but we decided to go on a trip together to start to see the world and live the life we wanted. We hired a car and went to all the places we wanted to see in California. And watching back, you see how happy we were and how we felt that this was the start of something. What's interesting about when you look back on that though is that we weren't really where we wanted to be in our lives. For me personally, I was 28. The band the dream I'd been working on for 10 years hadn't worked out, and because of that, I hadn't got my career going. I was doing an internship where I wasn't getting paid. I didn't know if I'd get a job at the end of it, and there was that pressure. And my girlfriend at the time was just left university. She's been in a retail job that she wasn't happy with, and she was a little bit lost of what was her next step, where was she gonna go? And that's what's really good about looking back on these memories. Not only are you able to relive the great moments you had, but it helps you gain the perspective that even though at that moment things weren't going the way that you'd hoped, you were still able to enjoy and live the life that you felt you wanted at that point. And this is why documenting your life can be such a good thing to do. It's not about reminiscing and living in the past. It helps you to gain more perspective and reminds you that things don't always stay the same. And it can help you to remain more present in the future because you realize that the moments you were catching them are quite magical. Maybe you didn't live it the way that you should have done because you were so worried about what was going on. And that's why it's so important to me. And this kind of leads quite nicely to the next point. Don't wait for the moment. Because the issue is we only really think that we should film or take pictures of a particular milestone event, going away on holiday, a birthday, a graduation. But what about them in between moments? Because these are the things we tend to forget, and sometimes it's when best memories are created, the most precious moments. Because you never know what you're actually filming. You could be filming something that you feel is a dull moment and you're not going to want to remember it, but there could be a friend on that. There could be a pet that's sadly passed on, or a relative. You're able then to look back and just see in that normal day-to-day scenario, and you're able to relive that, and you never really know what you're about to capture. If you're trying to wait for the moment, then you won't capture it because it will be come and gone. And that's why it's so important just to pick up the camera and get in the habit of just filming every day. And sometimes you forget, and that's fine. Don't punish yourself for it. But the more you do it, the more you'll figure out a way that works for you, that's not as intrusive, and it will become a second habit. And the thing that's really helped me is deciding to shoot more video and take less photos. I guarantee right now on your phone, you've got hundreds of photos of concerts you've been to, or someone's birthday, where you'd never really look at them, just sitting on your phone or on your laptop stored away in a file somewhere, and you just kind of scroll through and don't really connect with them as much. And I think the reason why we don't connect them as much is because we're not really reliving the moment we thought we were when we captured it. When we look at a video, we're hearing the sounds that are around us at the time, and we connect with it more. You think of it like this: it's great having pictures of a lost relative. What about a video? Hearing them laugh, their voice, the way they move, you connect with it so much more. Because in some ways, video is showing the real situation, and a photo is just trying to capture one particular perfect moment. It's like with an Instagram profile, it's not the reality, it's a perfected version of a reality that someone wants to project. A video is imperfect, and in some ways, that makes it perfect. For your memory, and remember, as I said before, this is just for you. And that's what makes it special. It's what you want and what you want to capture and what you want to relive. Always try and think about, how do I want to relive this moment? Most of the time a picture won't do that, a video will. Doing all these little steps has been life-changing for me. Now that's going to sound a bit over the top, but for me it's true. And this is why for me nostalgia is such a good thing, because it can help you grow and help you gain a better perspective on yourself. Doing this isn't for the past. Some people negatively might think that it is to live in the past, to use it as a crutch because you're trying to escape the future or escape where you are now. At least in my case, I don't think that's true. It makes us realize that we're not alone. We can get so caught up in what's happening around us, which can help us doubt ourselves. But when we look back, we realize that isn't true. We're constantly surrounded by loved ones, and we're constantly surrounded by great moments and great memories that we're able to relive through this documentation. You know, because I started trying to write a diary, then I realized that filming just speaks to me more. And maybe for you, that is the case as well. Because remember, we're the first generation where in our pockets is a filming device. You know, and people are more open to the idea of having a camera and having their picture taken because of the kind of culture that we're in. I mean, I don't think a big mirrorless camera or DSLR is ever going to be sort of culturally acceptable, but this phone will. Going back to my original point about quality doesn't matter, pick your phone up. Don't feel you have to have your camera with you all the time. Anything can be good. There's loads of footage I have on my phone that it still has great memories and still things that I like to watch. And as I keep said before, this is for you. Don't worry about how it looks. This is an exercise for you to document your life, and how you choose to do that is up to you. Any way you do it isn't wrong. So let's take advantage of that. Pick out that camera, start capturing, start to document the life you have right now. Because, best of my knowledge, this is the only life we're going to get. So let's make sure we keep track of all the great moments we have. Thanks for watching.